Greetings and welcome to the Commander's Guide to the Galaxy second episode, which is the UI overview. So let's just start. The ship's UI is what you see in front of you. So for me it's this nice yellow and blue stuff which I really haven't been bothered to change even though I want to. It's split up into a few different things. So on the left down there you can see sort of Federal Corvette and my assistant here, Commander Judy, a readout of that ship with the little display. Then on the right you can see 3 bars, so a few lights, and my ship. Then you've got the big central, you've of course got the screen, and at the top you've got the info panel, on the other side you've got the comms panel. But what we're going to focus on first is in bottom centre you've got the radar. The radar is probably the key instrument to actually playing this game. If you can't see that, or if you don't know how to read that, then you're pretty stuffed. So it can be a bit confusing to read because this radar display is trying to output 3D space onto a 2D object inside a game, which is then 3D, which is portrayed as 2D to your eyes. So it can be quite confusing to read, but the way to look at it, your ship is represented in the middle by the arrow. Everything is portrayed around you on a flat disc, so if it were in 2D space and there were no vertical elements to it at all, they would be in those positions on a flat disc around you. Then you have a stalk leading up to each point, and what this means is it's the elevation. So take for example the green dot moving slightly behind me at the minute. It's quite high up, which means that it is probably pretty much straight on top of me. And were it to be, say, on the left, that's just another good example, there was a signature which had a stalk going below the central disk, which means it is underneath me relative. You notice that it started to shimmer, and this is because all of the sensors have a very limited range. I think it's usually about 7 kilometers at most, and when it becomes outside that range, the sensors have a vague understanding of where it is, but they don't quite know for sure. So you'll just get, what you'll get is, like in front of me in the sensors right now, a shimmering readout of the approximate position of this, of the entity it's trying to describe. There's also a lot of colours on this radar display. I'll just run through them now. So everything in green is an ally or a friendly. Everything in yellow is yellowy orange. It's neutral to you. So yeah, it's not really a threat. The white things are points of interest. So that can be anything from a navigation beacon to, in this case, it's going to be wakes, which are left behind when you engage your frameshift drive, which will be covered in later episodes. In front of me, you can probably see that the ship, this lovely Federal Corvette, is highlighted in blue, and it's also blue on my sensors, although it's flashing orange because it's being attacked. That's something which I'll cover later. It's a rather annoying feature of power play, and that's because I'm in a wing with Commander Judy, and your wingmate Judy, your wingmates show up as blue, and your enemies will show up as red. The last one is a wingmate enemy. Now, if I go over here, you see this Serious Security Viper is showing up in purple. Wingmate enemies show up in purple. Those are all of the colours you're going to see on your heads-up display, unless you change the way that the game displays colour to you, which can make some rather cool effects, but also it can mess with other things, because it uses a matrix system to do that. Now, the next thing with the radar down there is the shape of the actual signatures, so you can see. So a lot of the ones around here are squares, but you may have noticed already that this Serious Security Viper is actually a triangle. What happens is when you pop your weapons out, it will change your signature from a square to a triangle to signify that your weapons have been deployed. The last thing on the HUD is NPCs will show up as a solid signature and players will show up as a hollow signature. So the next part of the UI is this, the navigation panel. So you can see, I'll start it on the navigation tab. So what we've got here is we've got two little sections. We've got one which says where you are at the minute. If you've got destination plans, you've got some filters which I've never. Oh no, there we go. There's some filters for the thing on the right, and then you've got a galaxy map, system map, and galaxy powers, which I'll cover in later videos. And then this is just a list of the things in this system. So this is LHS 20. Then when that finishes, you've got a list of some closed systems. Your transactions tab will say what you've got as transactions. So this is where your missions will come up, if you've got any bounties, any fines like I do because I'm a terrible person, if you've got any claims, any combat bonds, your progress in a community goal, which I'll cover in later videos. Then you've got the contacts tab. So in general, if you see in navigation, it has a little blue pointer next to Home City, because that's the closest thing on the system map that I'm closest to. It's 5.88 kilometers, and the next closest thing is 1.28 light seconds away. So Home City is sitting here at the top of the contacts tab, and then underneath that we have any ships that are on the sensors down there in this area. So we've got a Anaconda, which is orange and neutral, Commander Judy's Federal Corvette, and then two serious security ships, which are attacking Commander Judy because she is not of their faction. That's just what they do. And yes, it turns out that Anaconda was serious security. Okay, well, moving swiftly onwards then, we've got the sub-targets tab. In fact, I'll just use Commander Judy for an example for this. We've got the sub-targets tab. So this allows you to see what modules that your target has. So, you can see that this Federal Corvette is built with multi-cannons, beam lasers, and seeker missiles. And a lot of shield cell banks. So, and then you can also see the module's health and whether they're powered on or off. If we move one over, if you have a cargo scanner, you can scan the target and find out what's in their inventory. Next is your ship status tab. So what you have is on the first panel, you've got your commander name up the top, your ranks, so combat, trade, explorer, and then close quarters combat, which is a mode that not many people use, but it's actually quite fun. Then you've then got your balance, your rebuy cost, your local bounty, and your local reputation. So because I'm basically living here, they love me. Next, you've got your own modules. So you can see this is an A-rated Sidewinder because I wanted to throw something together before I went out. Your fire groups tab. So this lets you control. If we just go back to the main thing, you see in the central element there is primary one and secondary one. So I've got primary one bound to my joystick fiber, and secondary one bound to my spacebar, because I'm using joystick and keyboard. And then underneath that we've got chaff launcher, heatsink launcher, and the shield cell bank. Those don't need to be bound to fire groups because you can do them with keyboard bindings. For example, I have shield cell bank set to C, heatsink launcher set to V, and chaff set to K, or caps lock, whichever. If I'm in combat, I'll use caps lock. Inventory, so you can see your own cargo. I don't have any because I can't fit any. Materials, well, these are things for engineering modifications. Data, again, things for engineering modifications, which I'll cover later. And synthesis, you can actually make things with your materials. So for example, I've got enough to make to resupply my little minigun over there with some ammunition which will deal 30% bonus damage, which is quite good. And what a sight, huh? My god, how I haven't been hit yet is amazing. The last thing, we've got the functions tab. So we'll start from the top. Faction. If you go into a combat zone, you can select the faction you want to fight with here. Landing gear. This is actually a button. It will deploy and retract your landing gear. Same for the cargo scope. So if I just enable my cargo hatch here.
Power plant capacity exceeded.
God damn it. I'll teach you guys the power management later on. Cargo scope. So we will set that to deployed, and the cargo scope should come on.
Under attack.
Now. Under attack, excellent.
Deployed.
This is full power to shields then. Beacon, so because I'm in a wing with Commander Judy, it's advised to put your beacon to a wing setting so they can actually see you. Silent running, what this does, it's a rather useful mode where it will actually turn off your shields, which is a little bit dodgy. But it stops all your heat vents from working, which is fine up until about 50 to 60% heat, at which point you will start to just radiate heat through how hot the ship is anyway, and it negates the use of it. But it's very, very useful for stealth builds. External lights, these are your headlights, it's just a toggle button. Flight assist, I recommend you keep that on for a while, because it enables semi-Newtonian physics. So for example, it enables every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If I turn flight assist on, it stops me dead. So that's what that does. Rotational correction. When you're in a station, as the station's spinning, you don't spin with it. So if you have rotational correction on, you will stay steady in a station. If you have rotational correction off, you will stop moving relative to the station. And the station will just spin, and you'll be inside a washing machine, basically. Turret weapon mode. If you have turreted weapons, you can either set this to fire at will, so once you've marked a target by hitting them already, they will fire whenever they can see it, or forward fire, so they fire like your other weapons. Pre-flight checks will display a list of controls, so if you're not sure you've bound everything up, it's a good idea to just enable that and go through the list of controls, but it is quite annoying if you leave it on, because you have to do it every single time. Report crimes against me, which I really should have had on, means that if somebody shoots you, if you have it on, and you're not wanted, in most cases, unless you're using power play, they will get a bounty. If you have it off, like I do now, they won't get a bounty because you won't be reporting their crime. And orbit lines in Super Cruise, which I'll cover in frame shifting, orbit lines, you can see them as little orange lines. So if you've got a moon and a planet, there will be an orange line and the moon will orbit on that line. You can just turn those on and off to take nicer screenshots. So underneath the orbit lines you've got interface brightness, which does exactly what you think you can do. Gun sight mode. You can either have this leading or trailing, and I'll just quickly show you what that does if I turn off the cargo hatch. There we go. In front of this Federal Security Service F-63 Condor, there's a little marker. So if I fire my multi-cannon on that marker, you can hit it there. That is leading gun sight mode. Trailing does exactly what you'd expect, it puts it behind it. So in reality, that's the only difference there. And then we've got sensor scale type, logarithmic or linear, which I've never really played around with. Then you've got reboot and repair, which I will play you a little clip of now.
Thrusters online.
So of course you now know what that does. And the last button is self-destruct. I really, really shouldn't need to explain what this button does. And that is that for that tab. Now the last important tab I think is your communications tab. And my god, this fight is going on for a very long time. So here you can see the main communications panel. So here you can type messages like OMG, what the hell, that is so dank. There we go. And you can also change. You can change between modes on here. So right now I'm in direct reply mode. If I wanted to put something in local chat, I'd type /L to go for local, and then there we go. Or I could type /W for wing. I put dank memes in there. Or if somebody's direct messaged you, you can type /R to reply to them and send them some dank memes. So the second tab here is the Friends tab, or the Social tab. So you can see at the top, Wing is there, so we've got Commander Judy, and then I can engage Wingman Navlock, which means if you are in Super Cruise, I'll cover this basically, if you're in Super Cruise and they're not in Super Cruise, they're in normal space, you can engage that, and then your ship will just, you keep flying towards their marker, and your ship will drop out whenever it wants to. And you should end up in the same region of space as them if everything works fine. Then you've got text chat, send private voice comms request, which is, you know, like any voice communications. Generally, we tend to use Discord as one because it works quite nicely, and then back, which just closes the menu. Options, you know, you've got disable wing beacon, which you could also do from the ship status panel. You've got text chat, enable voice comms, leave wing, and back. So they're all pretty self-explanatory. Then down here you just got your friends tab of who's online in a minute. So this is the messages tab. Any messages from commanders like wing invites, so I noticed that Judy's dropped out the wing, so if you shoot me a wing invite it will come up in here. There we go, wing invites, and you know you've got the options to say yes or no to that. Same with friend requests really. The fourth, this little 3 bars sort of looks like a list. What comes up in here is your critical mission messages. I was wrong about the other one, that only comes up as just friend requests and wing requests. So this will be your critical mission messages, and if you rank up or change relations with a faction, it will come up in here too. And this is the settings tab. So you've got text channels. Oh, Jesus, those are missiles. So you've got the local text channels, voice channels, wing channels, direct messages, and if you're using Discord, just disable wing voice comms. And just to the right up there, there's a little hexagon. That's your wing symbol. So Judy will be seeing a little plus. Lastly, but not least, down here you've got the don't really know what panel this will be. It's sort of an auxiliary panel. You've got your ship overview there, and just some stuff about it. It's usually just a bit of flavour text. And then you have the option to deploy your surface reconnaissance vehicle, which this ship does not have, but you deploy it from here, and you can also select your vehicle if you've got multiples installed. In future, we will be getting fighter bays, so this will also be where you launch your fighters from. Okay, yeah, just quickly before I get killed, self-destruct does exactly what you think it does. In fact, I'm probably going to get killed before this even happens because I managed to shoot somebody. Yep, there I go. Yep. Yep, that's a thing. That happens. So thank you very, very much for watching, guys. Our content will only get better as we make more of it. You know, get our better equipment set up, get our editing, recording techniques. It would be a real great help if you could just spread the word. We plan to actually make this Commander's Guide to the Galaxy a comprehensive series on everything in the game that we can possibly think of, as well as hell, anything else we want. Try and have the Commander's Guide to the Galaxy going as a series, and maybe something else as well. It's going to be a little bit difficult to run two things when we've only got one account each, but hell, maybe that could change. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I bid you all adieu. Starcoaster out.